Hi everyone, it's Rebecca Virginia, and today I am closing out my summer DIYs by showing you some Coastal Beach Decor DIYs. The first DIY in today's video is a nautical sign using real flip-flops and some decorative candles. Here's everything you need to make it. I'm starting off with one of the wood signs from the Dollar Tree. This is actually one from the Easter season. That's why it's always good to pick up signs from the Dollar Tree because you can always make them over. And I tried to make a beige kind of sandy color. If I had a peachy sand color paint, that would have been great, but I didn't, so I just combined some white and brown. After painting my sign, I wanted to go in and draw some more kind of sea-themed things on my sign. So I decided to go with coral, and I drew it just with a white colored pencil in the four corners of my sign. I wasn't sure where exactly I wanted the coral to be. I decided when I put the flip-flops down that I would have it in the upper right and the bottom left corners of my sign. So I just went back in with white paint and then some darker brown paint to shadow things in. I could have erased the coral that's in the other section, but I thought it still kind of looked cool, so I decided to leave it. Moving on to the flip-flops, I got these at the Dollar Tree during the summer season, and I thought these would be great for the DIY, but I wanted it to be a bit more nautical and rustic looking, so I am fixing the thong section on my flip-flop. And how I'm fixing this to fit in more with my theme is I took some nautical rope from, of course, the Dollar Tree, and I am hot gluing it down onto the plastic part of the flip-flop. And the thong area was a little bit wider than I thought, so I ended up using 2 rows of nautical rope to cover up that plastic blue area. I wanted to add a little centerpiece on my flip-flop, and these nautical pins from the Dollar Tree were absolutely perfect. They already came in this really gorgeous blue color, so I just took a bit of white paint and my chipping brush and just distressed the seahorses. The seahorses came attached to a clothespin, but it was really easy. I just peeled the seahorse off of that, and then I hot glued it to the center area of our flip-flops. The last thing was just attaching the flip-flops down onto my sign, and I did this just with some hot glue. I did hold it down a little bit longer just because I wasn't sure how the foam would work in the hot glue, but it worked just fine. I pressed it down onto my board and they stuck. And in the process of trying to clean up, I threw away the jute hanger that it came with, or it's somewhere on my floor and I just can't find it. So I took some jute that I had and just placed it through the holes that were already in our sign. Then I grabbed these 2 small candles from the Dollar Tree and stuck those down into the flip-flops. You could always hot glue them to make sure they really stay in place, but I ended up actually using tea lights. These candles are just for decoration, so don't go lighting the candles because that would be a massive fire hazard, but they look just as cute with tea lights. Our next coastal DIY is a seashell trinket tray. You can place any of your trinkets in here, but I think it looks great with some earrings and rings or other pieces of jewelry. This DIY is super easy, but I think it looks very high-end, like a trinket that you would find at Anthropologie or Urban Outfitters. And we are starting off by taking this gorgeous napkin from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just taking my pair of precision scissors that I got from the Crafters Square section and just fussy cutting out a cluster of these florals from the napkin. And I actually found this napkin in the baby shower supply section of the Dollar Tree. I don't know why it was in there instead of the regular party section, but maybe check out that section. That's why you really have to go up and down every single aisle at the Dollar Tree because you never know where you're going to find stuff. Then I took some Mod Podge and just painted it onto these Dollar Tree seashells. And we're just going to decoupage the napkin down onto our shell. So I'm going over the napkin with some more Mod Podge. And you can find these seashells at the Dollar Tree in the section where they keep rocks. Sometimes they'll have sand. And usually the ribbons, it's not always in the crafter square section, but usually the aisle right next to it. This last part is what I think makes it look way more high-end than just a Dollar Tree item and really transforms it into a jewelry or a catch-all trinket tray. And that is taking some of this gold, it's called the brushed metal paint by Folk Art, and I'm going all around the seashell like a gold border. And I love the way that this paint dries. It's not just a gold paint, it really is shiny and looks truly like some brushed metal. So I just went all the way around my seashell, and I absolutely loved the touch that this added to the decoupage shell. But if you're more of a silver person, you can substitute that instead of the gold, or even take some little small pearl stickers from the Dollar Tree and add those around it. Today's video was organized by Mia from Make It with Mia. I will link her channel down below, and some other wonderful creators. We are all doing summer vibes videos. I will link the next person's video in my description box. The last beach themed DIY in today's video is this really fun seascape using mostly free items you can find outside. Here's everything that you'll need to recreate this on your own. I'm beginning by taking one of the smaller canvases from the Dollar Tree. If you haven't seen this trick before, these are great wood frames. So I just removed the canvas, and then I was left with this really nice wood that I ended up painting in a white color using Waverly chalk paint. And I painted the entire thing white, and you'll see that I leave one side. I couldn't quite get it where my hand was. And then we're going to be using a lot of nature in this DIY. So all of these are twigs that I picked up in my backyard with help from my new puppy. I'll insert a picture of him. He really enjoyed helping me pick out these sticks. So once this was dried, I completed painting it. And then I went in and started painting some of these sticks and twigs. I'm using a couple different colors. I will use a dark blue, a gray, and then kind of a more white, light gray color. Then I went back to the frame. I kept going back and forth between painting the twigs and sticks and painting the frame as things were drying. So I went in with the color Elephant by Waverly and just used a dry trip brush and just started dry brushing on it. While I let that dry, I moved on to some rocks, which of course I also got in my backyard. So I picked up a couple of these, and I ended up painting some gray and I think one or two in that dark blue color that I'm going to be using shortly in the video. And these, I wasn't sure exactly how many I was going to use, but they're just going to be little embellishments that I add later on into our seascape. And now that everything is dry, it's time to start putting this actually together. So I took my hot glue and then my sticks that I painted, and I just started placing them down, kind of going in different directions. I wanted it to look like coral, of course, from the ocean, so nothing too uniform. And a couple of the twigs were a little bit too tall, so I ended up snapping some of them. But really, I just played around with this and put them in how I thought looked best. I think this would also be a really fun craft for kids. You can either use the hot glue gun for them, they can tell you where they want certain items placed, or you could just use regular liquid glue and have them place down the seashells and all of the fun little sea characters. I think this would be really great for them to do, but of course make sure that you're the one handling the hot glue gun if you choose to use that. I also know the Dollar Tree section has lots of the Finding Nemo characters, so again, if you wanted to make it a kid's craft, you could always add in those. I decided to use the seashells that we used earlier and one of these starfish pins. I really wanted some kelp or some seaweed in this craft, but I didn't have any, and then I remembered that I had this reindeer moss from the Dollar Tree, and I remember when I bought it during the Christmas season, I was like, this is not reindeer moss. It looks like seaweed. It's very odd feeling. It's kind of rubbery. I haven't seen it too much at the Dollar Tree. I think they went back to whatever their original formula was. But if you see this, pick it up because it's a really great looking like seaweed and it holds its shape pretty well. They're long strings versus the normal reindeer moss, which is just, regular moss. So this was kind of a fail when I purchased it, but it ended up really working out. I love how my seascape ended up. I think it would be really beautiful on a nightstand if you have a beach-themed room. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep searching, keep creating.